Howdy friends, we're back at it again with another day of painting. I figured it was time to take a break from that eternal um, time sink that is the Kingdom Hearts wood burning, and come back to some Warhammer minis. So, picked up some new Liquitex acrylics. These are just the basics line, but I figured I'd give them a try. Got some fluorescents and some metallics, and I want to see how they do on minis, so that's what we're doing. Seem to be a bit of a cross between soft and heavy body in terms of consistency so far. So I'm excited to give them a look over. Let's get them a little thinned out. Problem with heavy bodies is well, they're heavy bodied. They maintain their texture pretty well, which is great for some things, but terrible for others, such as mini painting. We want actually pretty thin body so things apply smoothly. But that's nothing that can't be fixed with... I just had it out. Where did it go? Ah, there it is. My Flow Improver. Another Liquitex product. Not sponsored. Wish I was. Uh, Basically just water with a little bit of surfactant in it as far as I know, and some uh, drying retardant. But it does a good job of thinning out heavy bodies like this. A lot better than water at the very least. This is also a naturally transparent uh, paint. It's going to be interesting to see what effect it has with my Grosseille process. Might end up taking a lot of coats to get the coverage we want. We'll see. Might actually end up going for thicker, heavier coats than normal. In fact, it's already seeming like we're going to want to, so just gonna increase the consistency a bit and just give this crab arm a good smattering. See what happens. These are my Kit Bash Chaos Marines, made from a whole bunch of second-hand bits and bodies I got on eBay for cheap. So I like to do a lot of experimenting on them. Which means I don't particularly care what happens to them. I'm willing to be, kind of awful to them. So that we know what's good for the minis I do care about. Call these my, so the Chaos Marine faction that's painted red and dedicated to Khorne, the chaos god of war and violence and bloodshed. They're named the World Eaters, but since these guys are kit bashes and made out of just junk I have lying around basically, I like to call them my scrap eaters. Yeah, this fluorescent green is definitely fluorescent. You can hopefully see just how bright and saturated that is. Hey Merlin, you're supposed to be on vacation still. It's good to have easy days. Vacation is all about resting. Nice. Well, hopefully you're having a good time. I know I'm enjoying my vacation so far. Gotten so much painting done today. I got a whole bunch of my miniatures uh, primed and base coated. Well, when you put it like that, now you're making me think you are stressed out. You probably did. I think I posted it on Julie's. So the simple solution is we never let you go home, so you'll never be stressed again. We're just gonna keep tossing you around to various friends' places for the rest of time. But yeah, this is definitely a super bright, funky green. I kind of like it. I think this will actually work really well with my Necrons for their plasma glow. And the consistency is a bit to work with, but I think we can handle it. This is my Everything is Japan playlist. No particular genre, just people singing in Japanese. So we've got pop, we've got J-rock, uh, even some Japanese bands that don't actually sing in Japanese, a little bit of metal, all that good stuff. Of course, a lot of anime openings. I don't know if you were around for the one night that I did all Final Fantasy music. Hey, an SJ. We're finally taking a break. Oh, don't worry, you've got plenty of time to get started. But we're finally taking a break from my Kingdom Hearts project to test out some of these Liquitex basics I picked up. We're actually going to swap from the fluorescent green to some silver for his gun real quick. So please do go off, SJ. Tell us about the Japanese bands you love and or hate. So these ones are not the ones I showed off on Julie's Discord today. These are my Kit Bash Chaos Marines that I like to use whenever I want to test out new paints or new techniques or something. So they're the ones I don't particularly care too much about because they probably will never see the game board, but they make excellent test grounds because of all the details and bits and junk they have. The ones I prime differently are my uh, Iron Hands that will eventually make up one of my big armies. Oh, Bump of Chicken. I think I've got a song of theirs on here, probably. If not, they show up in my YouTube recommendations all the time. Oh, love Yui. She can belt out. I don't want to call it like rap, but that bridge that she does in Again, where she just goes at it, and it's like, holy crap, this little girl is just doing all that. Step aside, Eminem. So yeah, this silver applies pretty nicely. Nice and creamy. Curious to see how translucent it's gonna dry, but with metallics, we don't really care too much about translucency. We're more about the shimmer, and then for detail, we go in over top with a wash. But now we're gonna swap to a bronze real quick so we can do some detailing. And I think in this space, the fact that they are super thick is actually going to help us because we're going to be doing some trim and edge work. So hopefully I don't bark this up, but these little bits of trim that are everywhere, I'm going to try and hit with the bronze. By the way, how does my camera setup look? I manually altered a number of the settings and then also added another light and brought the camera in closer to the workspace to try and get better focus. And I also changed some resolution settings on the stream, so hopefully it's not uh, buffering too hard on y'all. Oh, that's good. Hate for my stream to look bad. Well, so that's the thing with it is originally I had my stream broadcasting at 720 since, not even affiliate yet, so I can't, people can't alter my, what resolution they're viewing me at. So I bumped up the resolution, but that means that people with worse internet will get that stuttering and buffering. Yeah, I want to be able to turn off autofocus. The one problem will just be that I'll have to find the focus point of where I normally work, which will take some testing so that things can stay in focus. Probably something I'll try to do before Thursday. It's all an experience. I'll just trying to learn the process. This stuff definitely seems to want to dry out quickly when applying thick, which should be obvious, but still a little annoying. And it is sort of subtle. Oh, but of course. One of the lure folk that I like to watch a lot, Ian. It isn't a stream if he doesn't start with a cold mic. Akara, Kupo, and Boop to you too. Hey Kara, have you eaten yet today? Oh, yeah, I like this bronze. It's nice and dark, which is better than a lot of like coppers and bronzes I've worked in the hobby space. I actually like my metallics a little darker. Oh yeah, so what the wet palette is it's a sponge of water that you fill up and rinse out all the time, and on top of it you put a sheet of, I believe it's wax paper or waxed parchment paper, uh, and the wax paper is somewhat permeable. It still lets water through, but it doesn't let the paint through. So what it does is, as the paint sits on top and wants to dry out, the water seeps up through with osmotic pressure and forces it to stay moist. Some days you'll actually even lift up the paper after you're done and find that all of the places where the paint was at have turned completely dry while the rest is still kind of wet. But yeah, no, that's how it works. It just tries to keep all of the paint at about the osmotic density that it can, or that the paper allows it to be. But yeah, you like mine. I think this actually usually has a lid with it. I ripped it off, but it's like a closing clamshell, and it came with 2 foam pads and 100 sheets of this pre-cut wax paper. Of course, you can always make your own with like some wet paper towels and supermarket wax paper and like a Tupperware. But I think with 100 sheets of paper, this thing only cost me like $15 on Amazon. So it definitely worth it for the price because you notice the difference of how quickly your paints end up drying out. So what's for dinner tonight, Kara? Doing something fancy? The Jigglypuff is finally getting done? By God. Just fish and chips. There's nothing just about fish and chips. That's the quintessential British meal. Back when I was a smoker and a drinker, my average lunch was me taking an hour off for my lunch break to go down to the local hole in the wall pub to smoke half a pack of cigarettes and drink a pint and have the fish and chip special. Granted, I'm much healthier now than I was back then, but there's some nostalgia for those times. Pretty sure this is a bunch of Miller hair. Yep, Miller's been getting into my minis again. Yeah, I definitely, oof. There were a whole bunch of things that I did when I was younger that I'm glad I don't do anymore. I definitely lived like I was not gonna see 28, and here we are. Ah, jeez, you should see my dryer after I've done a load. Half of the lint is Miller hair, and even then I've still got Miller hair all over my clothes. I mean, to be fair, you were working at a grocery store. People do not treat their retail workers well at all. Especially the folks that think they're going to be there for the rest of their lives because they just, they're stuck in poverty sort of deal. Like, God, that's gotta be an awful mindset to be in, to be like, this is it. This is how my life is going to be. Yeah, I'd want to drink and smoke myself out of it too. We really need to do better as a society for our lowest earners. Not to start another anti-capitalist rant on stream, but goddamn, most essential people get the worst shake of it. Oh yeah, cost of living, jeez. Our housing market is hell. God, I hope so, Merlin. And I even say that as a homeowner. It is messed up that even as a person that makes a fair bit of money living in one of the lowest cost of living areas of the US, that's still metro, uh, it was still difficult finding a reasonably priced house to live. Like my house was only $185,000, and that was still a lot. Like I heart goes out to all the people that live in the coastal areas. Yeah, I definitely, you know, I say it a lot to a lot of people, but maybe you should try out tech. Um, Even in the consultancy I work at, we've got some not so client-facing people. Some, well, I don't want to make assumptions about them, but I think some of the people I work with are fall into the category of autistic savant, and they do pretty well. Obviously it's a bit of a learning curve, and he's got to be willing to make it work. But I think there are some industries that he could find himself pretty successful in if he is willing to try. Like I've always kind of um, assumed or suspected that I'm on the spectrum. I've never been really good with social cues myself. I have things about being touched. I've got ADHD, and that there's a huge comorbidity there, stuff like that. But just in general, it's like really likely that I've got a bit of that in me, and even I've found my way in tech. So, oh yeah, no, the massive increase on housing value with no actual appreciable like improvement on everything. Like the fact that my house has gone up from 185 to 240, despite the fact that aside from my deck, I've done literally nothing to it. Just supply being so awful. It's messed up. So yeah, I like the color of this bronze, but it is applying a bit, eh, not well. It either doesn't want to come off the brush, or when it does, it comes off too thin. That said, it's not like metallics ever want to play nicely, but this one in particular isn't doing too well. But let's switch gears and see how the black does. Let's see. Fully opaque. Bronze was also opaque, but we'll see. One nice thing about these heavy bodies is that, unlike soft bodies, they don't settle. Or at least if they do, it takes much longer. Um, so you don't have to do a whole bunch of shaking with them, which is really nice for people who have arthritis or RSIs or anything like that. If they can't, afford to get into like a vortex. LMC. Can't say I've heard of them, but I'll have to check them out. But yeah, let's take this black and see what it does to these crevice parts. Space Marines have a lot of flux areas in their power armor, a little bit of tubing. Let's see what it does to them. Definitely applying very translucently once we get it thinned out. Which, in terms of my contrast method, the underpainting and translucence works pretty well, but maybe not so much when I'm trying to blacken out certain areas like this. Oh goody. My first ever awful bot. How exciting. So I'm actually kind of interested to see how well this basic black applies to my wood grain, because with how transparent it is, it might actually be a better effect for some of the things I want, where I want the line art to show through. So that's actually a nice thing to discover. Always gotta look for the positive in things, right? The coverage isn't great, but sometimes I don't want the coverage to be great. Oh, how I love JoJo's music. I still need to finish up season 3. I haven't watched an anime in so long. I'm such a fake weeb. Now then, something I want to do to test or entertain my curiosity. This fluorescent, not phosphorescent. This green here is a little bit too bright for chaos. So let's take this fluorescent or pearlescent black and smear it all over and see if we can't dull it down a bit while still having that green show through. Wasn't Yuri on Ice like 6 years ago at this point? Time be like that though. I still need to watch Summer Wars. Literally everyone keeps telling me, Clay, you've got to watch that. And I'm like, yeah, I should. One day. There we go. I think that does pretty well to bring out the grunginess of it. Still got the green in there, but it's a dark green. While we're grunging things up, we'll get a little bit of our black wash on the palette. This is basically just a very thin ink. But it settles into recesses nicely and brings out details. And it's great for like metallics because especially when it comes to like guns and stuff, you don't want super bright metal. You want a little bit of black or brown in the recesses to show all the detail and kind of give it like the covered in oil and grease look. And you, of course, you can always go back over and brighten up some key areas that you think would get some wear and like movement on them to polish them back up naturally, but for the most part, you just want to give everything a good washing. Alright, I think we're gonna let this guy dry a bit. He's got a lot of paint all over the place. We'll swap over to this guy for a bit. Get some silver back on the brush. Get his gun going. I love the Chaos Marines aesthetic. Some days they've got like skulls all over their guns and junk. They're just super metal. One of these days I might actually even get a chance to play with these guys. Well, maybe not these guys specifically, but Warhammer in general. Despite being only a 1v1 game, it's just as hard to get a Warhammer game going as it is to get like a D&D game going. Unless you're willing to go to the game store and play with randos. But like, it's 2022, who really wants to do that? Random people are weird. Well, anxiety and the fact that, well, no real tiptoeing around it. Warhammer has a bit of an issue with Nazis. Because Warhammer is um, a pastiche of 80s era politics and the rise of ultra conservatism and nationalism in the cultural zeitgeist, especially with people like Reagan and Thatcher really pushing hard on the American and British way. It kind of did the same thing as Starship Troopers, where it's like, wow, look at how awful this future would be. And then a whole bunch of people missed the point completely, and it was like, I love that aesthetic. We should dress up like that. So yeah, it's like when you go play Warhammer with randos, there's a non-zero chance that that person really, really loves the Imperium for the wrong reasons. But also, yeah, terrain sets are very important too. There's a heavy upfront cost to getting into Warhammer. You could easily spend over $300 before you're ready to play. Oh, hey, Eric. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, the joys of getting into a expensive hobby that you can't always fully enjoy. That's one of the other things I've been putting off too. I've 3D printed a whole bunch of terrain that's sitting there still in its white plastic form. Gonna have to spend an entire day just priming everything. Gonna be a good time. Thankfully, I've taken this entire week off for mental health reasons as well as needing desperately to uh, clean my house. So I'm getting in a lot of painting time while I'm at it. So the resin printer is a 3D printer, and it is my new one, but I also have a few other printers that are FDM. So the difference is that a 3D FDM printer lays down thermoplastic plastic that it melts in lines, you know, etches out like a print head a single layer, moves up a bit, and then keeps doing that over and over again. A resin printer uses UV sensitive resin, and what it does is it has a build plate that rises upwards, and underneath of it is a LCD screen which displays an image in regular light. But while those LCDs are active, it blocks out sections of the screen from allowing a UV light underneath of it to turn on, which shoots through, and any of the sections that are still open, non-crystallized, get developed with this UV light, forming solid. So, instead of printing like a head, it's shooting a laser at it, basically. Oh, so you do have an FDM. Yeah, I love using PLA. It's so much easier to work with than ABS. I also have one of those cute little 3D printer pens that aren't really that good for much besides, like entertaining small children. But I use it a lot to fix my failed prints when it stops at a certain point. So I'll end up taking the pen and just creating a final layer there and then printing off a another thing to glue onto the top of it. As you do. But yeah, I'm a little mixed on this metallic paint that I've bought here. It's definitely probably in part that it's the basic line, so it's less pigmented than their professional line would be. But I'm sure I can still find some good uses for it. And it's not like it'll go to complete waste here. Like, just because it's very thinly pigmented doesn't mean I can't just apply more layers than I normally would. This is actually one of my favorite J-Rock bands, Man with the Mission. They did a beautifully choreographed music video for Another Dead End in Tokyo that I would describe as one night drunk in oh, what's the name? Kabukicho, the very red light district area of Tokyo. Yeah, definitely look up their. So they did anime songs for Gundam, Iron Blooded Orphans, um, Log Horizon, the ones that did Database. But Another Dead End Tokyo, it's one of their songs I don't know if they've done for an anime, but very good song, very good music video. Definitely check that one out. They do a mix of singing in English and in Japanese. They also are kind of out there. They all wear wolf heads, like fake wolf heads, no fursuit or anything like that, just wolf heads. And their like backstory is that they're space wolves that crashed on Earth long ago. It's a thing, but they put on a good show, I hear. I definitely appreciate the weirdness of Japan. I think a lot of art comes from being willing to just put yourself out there and be a little different. A lot of good art, that is. Yeah, this black does not have nearly the coverage I want for these areas, but thankfully I can always go back in later, add more layers, or just come back in with a thicker pigmented paint. Yeah, even with 2 layers here, it's still looking pretty thin. Oh, I do love a good rock ballad. Swara. I'll have to. You'll definitely have to send me like a list of all of these bands that you brought up because I will not remember to write them down right now. But definitely would be interested in checking them out. Appreciate it. I don't know, that's not looking too bad. Maybe it's just 3 coats I need for this. Hmm. Well, might as well try out another color while we're here. Let's take the copper. And see how that looks on the chaos symbol. The symbol here right on his pauldron is the symbol of the chaos gods. Points 8 ways even though there are only 4 main chaos gods. I just think it's meant to represent the change that they embody. Personally, I think it would have been cooler if they had done some sort of symbol that more represented the combination of the um, 4 gods, but c'est la vie. And yeah, this one's definitely applying thin too. We'll go back over it a few times and see if we can't get something better. Might also be a case of starting with a white and going over that, which we will test right now because I also want to get this ammunition painted in copper. So maybe with the silver base, it'll look better on the first pass. So a lot of these metallics, I think I've brought this up before, but they use not true metallic metal. Like it's not actually copper dust or gold dust in these paints, but it's mica dust, sort of the same stuff you would find in glitter or craft resins, um, glitter makeup, stuff like that. That gives it that sparkling shine. And otherwise, it's just the same regular paint that you find in these acrylics. So if you've got, say, your silver here, this is just white or off-white paint with mica dust in it. And the one thing about white paint is it often uses very thick, opaque titanium white as its pigment, which means that if you put it down, one layer will do a lot more coverage than your typical yellow or orange or any other translucent paints. So perhaps and I think I'm proving it to myself right here, if I want to use these paints in the future for laying down metallic colors, you can see right there, if it wants to focus, I don't know. Camera, do you want to work with me here? Anyways, the copper is definitely applying much better over top the silver. Yeah, just hit me up in the Discord like always. I don't typically take commissions, but you know, you're a friend. I'll make an exception for you. I mean, to be fair, I still haven't gotten you that blanket yet. I'm sure we can work something out. I do love how this copper plays well with the red, since, you know, obviously it's just base orange with mica, but, you know, it's a good look. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get a lot more work done on that blanket this week since I've got the time off. Maybe if we're lucky, I'll even finish it. Get it to you in time for Christmas. That'd be nice. Oh, you know what we've completely forgotten to do? And even my mods completely forgot to remind me to do, even though they're all about that self-care. We haven't taken our 1 hour break yet. So everybody, get up, stretch, swap your fluids, make sure you've got food inside your belly, and we will be back in 5 minutes. Alright, and I am back. Just had myself a nice little snack of this delicious multi-grain sesame garlic cracker I found at Aldi. And now I'm definitely feeling like I need to go back tomorrow to buy them out of it just in case they stop selling it. That and their red onion chutney that they have on special right now. Surprisingly good. Anyways, what were we up to? Right, painting. Let's see if we can't darken these areas down anymore. This is the second Baby Metal song that's come on tonight. And I find it really hard to skip these girls because still one of my favorite images I've seen on the internet has to be the picture of the Facebook comments of a show, the after show that Rob Zombie did with them, and all of the fragile white men saying how they're not real metal, and Rob Zombie himself coming to the defense of them like, these girls rock harder than you've ever rocked in your life. They've got more energy than you do. Shut the heck up. It's like, damn, alright. Oh yeah. I think I've got like 5 or 6 of their songs on this playlist. But yeah, definitely love it when you see gatekeepers getting shut down hard. Oh yeah, love these guys too, the oral cigarettes. In part because, their music sounds good. In part because them boys be cute. But also the energy that they put into their music videos whenever they show themselves playing, they're always like dancing and having a good time. Like, especially the bassist, he just goes off and does these hilarious little jigs on camera. It's like, you're having fun with this, and I appreciate that. I love a band that can still have fun after years and years of playing. Which makes me surprised that we haven't come across any Scandal songs so far on the list. Those girls know how to have a good time on stage. I'd even take a second here to skip to one of their songs. So this is some iridescent white. I don't know what the difference between pearlescent and iridescent is supposed to be, but I'm gonna take a bit of this, try to go over his blindfold real quick. Pull it away from that black green that we've been doing for his flesh. I don't know what an iridescent white would represent in real life, but I don't know. I think it's kind of neat if his blindfold is shiny. Actually gonna take a second here. Garnet is great, but I really want to play some Scandal real quick. And these girls know how to put on a show. You might recognize their voices from Shukan's Sentimental, one of the endings of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's an all-girl band that formed back in like 2007 or something when they were fresh out of high school. And boy, do they rock. They've been basically going since then, I believe. Still going today. And all of their music is just top tier. Like, they've won multiple national awards, and the shows they put on are just great. If I were to ever see a Japanese band live, they'd be one of them. Yeah, this iridescent white definitely has better coverage than the others. Probably in part to the fact that it's, again, a white. Might work as a very good base for future things, just like that silver. And while we wait for some of that to dry, I'm just gonna go over some of the metal bits with a bit of wash. Try and pull some more of that detail back out. Grunge up some of the pieces. And now that that's over, we can go back to Garnadelia. which I do like. They do have a lot of good songs. I just really wanted to bring up Scandal for a second there. Um, I like some Vocaloid songs, but in general, I'm not huge on Vocaloid. The voices just are a little too uncanny valley for me. Like the writing behind the music's great. Senbon Zakura is up there for me. I just I can't listen to Hatsune Miku. Oh yeah, like what is it? The Wagaki band. Their cover of Senbon Zakura. That is top tier. I love that. I just can't listen to the original. Yeah, that sounds like its own sort of nightmare. Like if a normal band never released any studio albums, they only ever did live shows. There was one song like that I'm sure you're well aware of the disconnect between licensing of Japanese music and American distributions that has existed for years, but was especially awful in the mid to late 2000s. but the band The Pillows had a song called Subhuman, which I only found through a Naruto fan animation, but like fell in love with the song, and I could only listen to it through that animation because you could not find it anywhere. You couldn't even find it on LimeWire because it was one of their B-sides. So it wasn't even one of their top songs that people were trying to get onto YouTube or trying to get into like LimeWire. So for like years I could not listen to this song. It was miserable. I think it finally ended up on like Spotify or something. I'll have to see if it is so I can add it to this playlist actually now that I think about it. But yeah, just ugh. And that's still an ongoing issue. Like one of my favorite Japanese rock bands actually doesn't have a lot of their songs on Spotify right now. Kishida Kyodan and the Akibosha Rockets. They've only got maybe half their massive discography on Spotify, and the rest I have to listen to through Sony Japan's YouTube channel. Uh, the joy is of music copyright. International music copyright. It certainly makes me glad that like anime and stuff has gotten so much more mainstream in recent years because you know along with that and like K-pop entering the public consciousness and stuff, it has pulled a lot of that niche uh, into the forefront and kind of shown like Japanese and Korean executives, you've got international market. Your international market is larger than your domestic market. Capitalize on it for the love of God. Oh yeah. I knew they were famous for something, I just couldn't remember what it was off the top of my head. The Fooly Cooly. I still need to watch the second season of that. Sure, it's not as good as the first, but you know, nostalgia. I also need to watch Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 because like that somehow slipped under my radar. It's like, yeah, release 4.0, you coward. We were like that for like a decade, and then they finally did it, and I didn't even realize it happened. Well, these days, I just need to make a list of all these things I keep saying I need to do and actually start doing them. So, anyways, on the painting side of things, what I'm doing right now is just going back and layering up some of these areas I hit with the wash, because I do want a little bit of the shine to still come through, while also getting that shadow, so it's just a matter of selectively bringing back some shine. Because you want shadow and recesses, you want a little bit of the griminess on the metal, and you just want a little bit of shiny metal just to all balance it all out a bit. Especially since this is transparent paint, some of that grime will still show through underneath the new paint you put back on, so it all works out. Yeah, I think he's. Let's see if I can get that in focus. I think he's looking pretty good right now. As good as he can be for a Kit Bash Chaos Marine that I'm just dinking around with. I'll set him down. Pick up a different one to have some fun with. This guy's somebody we've worked on before. And I just want to see, because his little mutated demon hand here, I think it needs a little bit of brightness to it. And I think this fluorescent green that we've used, we just give it like a little bit of a wash of sorts over top. I might just bring it up enough, make it fun again. And since this is a very translucent paint, I don't have much of a problem just hitting it really heavy with well thinned paint and just seeing where it dries and letting it just kind of act as a filter over top of this grungy black flesh I've already done. Just kind of see what happens with that. And I think I'll also do a bit of the same on these metallic growths, so that they seem a little more organic, or as organic as it can be when it's fluorescent green. I'm gonna have to look up the difference between phosphorescent and fluorescent later. Unless somebody else wants to do that for me real quick. Because I need to decouple that in my brain eventually. I assume phosphorescent has something to do with the natural phosphors that produce light on their own, while fluorescent reflects light well. That sounds right. But that's just a shot in the dark based on my basic analysis of the root language. kind of producing a neat effect over this metallic. Definitely lends credence to the idea that it's going to work really well for my Necrons. I think I laid that Aquila on a little too thick, so let's suck that back off. Try going on it a little drier this time. Setting down that white as a base for the black. Since these are, of course, Chaos Space Marines, I doubt they really want to keep using the Imperium's Aquila. I think they'd probably blacken it out a bit. We're going to start with a base of white or silver and then go down to black on it. Right now we're just smacking some areas with more of that white just so that we can... Alright, well thanks for stopping by there, SJ and Kara. Hope you have a good rest of your night. Can't wait to see the stream tomorrow. But yeah, just gonna prep some areas for some other metallics to go on. There's a level of irony that comes with this black applying so thin, given the fact that black is typically one of the most covering pigments there is. definitely leaves a lot to be desired. Probably gonna really struggle to find a good use for this paint, but we'll find it eventually. Big stretches, everybody. Straighten out that back a bit. Maybe give it a twist or two. Oh, that feels better. Let's go take a look at this guy. I think he could use a little bit of wash on this gun that we did up earlier. I think I need to drop a little bit more on. Try to bring out these skulls a bit more. And I think we're going to have to toss a bit. Oh no, we still got some copper left on our palette. Do up some of the bullets like that. I'll have to wait a second for him to dry at the very least though. So while we do that, start going over some other areas with this silver to give it a base for the other colors. Yeah, definitely has been a good day to show why you should not skimp on your paints. These basics, I'm sure these work pretty well as craft paints or on a blank canvas, but for layering, they are just a little too underpigmented for what we need. But that's what this channel is all about. Learning what does and doesn't work and going from there. Y'all are learning right along with me. Oh, you're just tuning in to listen to my excellent taste in music, obviously. But yeah, I do like the color. It's just the pigmentation is off. So what I think I might do is one of these days go back to the Michaels there and pick up the same Liquitex colors just in the professional line. Or at least pick up one of them and see how that coverage compares. And if my thoughts are correct that it's just that these are lightly pigmented due to being the basics line, and the professional line is much better, then I'll end up picking up the rest as well. Because I definitely do like how these look. I just wish I didn't have to put on 4 layers to get the same effect as my other paints. Bring a little shine back to these tiny skulls. I think we're going to grab some copper because it's on a pallet to go back over these areas. And why not? We're just gonna slather some copper over this jetpack. I don't even think it's technically a proper jetpack, but I just want a little bit of copper on these jet thrusters. Because why not? Maybe just on these specific areas the paints come off. These are Chaos Space Marines. They haven't had power of the Imperium at their back to give them the repairs and support they need to continue. Just surviving off of whatever they can pillage. I think the one major problem I have the 40k universe is really they're all bad. Every faction is bad. That's the point. In a fascist, warring future, nobody is a good guy. Which means that we don't get the comfortable choice of a independent faction that all they want to do is, just live free from the tyranny of all of the other big players. Everybody is a big player, and everybody is doing something bad. If you want freedom, you have to join Chaos. But if you join Chaos, you are eating babies. That is the moral choice you are given. And, it works for the setting, but I really wish there was an option where I could just be like, yeah, I just don't want to be a part of any of you people, because you're all awful. Maybe I'm still bad, just not as bad as the rest of you. Again, one of my favorite factions is still the Necrons, and they aren't free from judgment. They certainly have a far better claim to the universe than the rest of the people. And their actions are a lot more justifiable given that context. They owned this galaxy in the before times. They're just cleaning up all the pests that gathered while they were asleep. It's perfectly reasonable, right? Right? Alright, I think I'm gonna finish up by just giving another layer to these rubber pads, flex pads in the back. And I think we'll be signing off here for the night because my hand is actually starting to hurt from holding this holder for so long. And I can hear Kara and SJ in the distance screaming, Yelk, take care of your hands. They're precious. And they're kind of hard to ignore. So with that, I will say thanks everybody for coming and hanging out tonight. I'll probably be back on Thursday with either more of this, with some models I actually care about and some good paints, or hopefully finally finishing up that Kingdom Hearts wood burning I've been working on for so long. But yeah, thank you all again, and y'all have a good rest of your night. Do something good for yourself, take care of yourself, and do something good for somebody who isn't yourself. See you later.